people are copying individuals on our platform, we want to make sure that they become professionals over time. The more money copying them, the more we require them. So one is the certification process and educating yourselves about risk management. The second part is actually applying risk management. So on eToro, you actually can't copy somebody with high risk scores. So every person you will look at eToro, you'll see their track record, but also the risk score. The risk score is how volatile is their portfolio. And this probably was maybe 6-7 years ago where we came to a conclusion and we actually want to block the ability to copy people who have too high of a risk score. And we actually just want our popular investors to be those who know how to manage risk. And as you grow as a popular investor in eToro, we actually require you to lower your risk score, right? You have to learn how to manage the risk of the portfolio.
Welcome to the show. Yoni Assia, you have been very inspirational for a lot of people. I remember myself back in London when I was studying in 2009. I remember that was the first time I heard about eToro. And back then, you know, it was social investing, social trading. It was something that first popped up to me. Tell me more about your inspiration, how you started the company. I know you had a big influence from your father. I know your brother was involved as well. How all this happened?
So I've been very passionate about capital markets since I was very young. I started trading when I was about 13 and also a programmer myself. And when we started eToro, now it's 17 years ago, I started brainstorming together with my older brother, Ronen, about the world of trading and investing, which was sort of a part of, like, we always used to talk over dinner in the family about what's happening in the markets, what's happening in the stock markets. And my brother comes from an industrial design background, and he always used to make fun of me that, I have an accountant hobby, that I sit with Excels and spreadsheets and charts. And we started brainstorming about how can we make this world, which is so interesting, more accessible to people. How can we simplify and hack the user experience? And that's how we started. We thought of a world where significantly more people can access the world of the global markets. And we started building basically our software that originally was a desktop software to access the markets. And these were early days of social networks, of Facebook and Twitter. And we realized we can embed some of those features to enable our customers to talk to one another and to actually see each other's portfolios. This was early 2009, 2010. And expanded the concept of eToro from just a trading platform to a social investment network where you can actually see now millions of customers who have their brokerage accounts with eToro, who can trade crypto assets and stocks now for more than 20 different capital markets. And you can see their performance and their actual portfolio. So when you talk to someone, it's not like talking to somebody on Reddit where you don't know exactly who he is and what he does. You actually talk to someone where you can see his portfolio. So when he's talking about a stock, you can see whether he owns this stock and how much of the stock he owns in his portfolio. And of course, that led to the development of the concept of copy trading, which enables our customers not only to see the portfolios and performance of others, but to also automatically copy them. So it's been a very long journey with a passion of opening the markets for everyone to trade and invest in a simple and transparent way. And while we're already big with more than 3.5 million brokerage accounts with us globally, I think this is still the early days for eToro's potential growth.
Still, after so many years, you look so fresh, so energetic, so approachable, something very uncommon to see after, more than 2 decades almost, in the business. That's really good. Another thing I noticed is that obviously you've been quite, fortunate because you had inspiration, from your father. He had a company listed back in the US in the stock market, so it was a very good influence as well to you. Plus, of course, combining the technology side, the tech side, fancying Excel sheets, etc. let's say in my case and in many other people, for example, when we used to hear about stocks, I remember, it was the news in the main TV channel, and then you have the football, sports, and at the end there is like maybe 1 minute. It shows the stocks, it shows each company, what's the price, listed, and always my father, he used to tell me, no, 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 this is very risky stuff. If you put something, you will lose your money. It's like, and see, to some extent, it's normal, of course, people to be in the beginning kind of skeptic about things they don't really understand. And, we're talking about, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. Back then, it was not really democratized as you managed to do it um, over the years. Let's say if you didn't really have this influence from finance, would you still go kind of this way? What do you think, since a very young age, or would you go into some kind of other tech?
It's hard to say, what if. I can say that, I've always been extremely passionate and sort of fell in love in technologies that have sort of a common thread to them. So I remember first days when I saw the internet, and this was like, desktop, BBSs, everything looks like a DOS terminal. Maybe some of your viewers don't even know what a DOS terminal is. And I think back then when I looked at the internet and sort of also understood how it works with TCP/IP, I was like, wow, this technology connects people and information from all around the world. And immediately I knew I wanted to participate somehow in the technology. And I remember everything from creating bulletin boards to downloading files over BBSs. Then when I connected through the internet, and I remember still my first ever online trade through a bank, I remember how amazing it is that you click on your software in the desktop in back then in the house of my parents, and you buy something and it impacts the markets, capital markets in the US, that I have that power to change the price of a stock now listed in Nasdaq by just buying 2 shares or 5 shares back then. And
Do you
again, it's
remember
about
your first stock?
I remember the first stock, I think it was AMD. I remember always thinking this was probably 96, 7, 8. I think it was my first, actually, my first stock was Magic, which was the software, the company that my father ran as a Nasdaq listed company,
Makes
and then
sense.
expanded into some of those Israeli listed companies. But I think the real first stock I started trading was AMD. Like in and out and sort of understanding its relationship with Intel back then. And I think, that's another technology that sort of, I thought it's more than technology, it's like market structure, right? So you have stock markets, those stock markets connect everybody around the world. Somebody in some place clicks a trade, it impacts the price of all of the other basically owners of that share. So I really remember how I was excited about that. And then in 2010, when the first time I saw Bitcoin, again, the same feeling, like this is a network that connects everybody around the world over value. But actually, if you think of the capital markets are still structured very much across a lot of different old technologies, banks, exchanges, financial intermediaries. When you think of blockchain technology and Bitcoin, it's the same beautiful thing about the internet of connecting really everybody on the same level playing ground, but for money, for value. And I remember how that sort of immediately shifted my mind to understand sort of how the future world of digital assets could look like.
Being such tech savvy and interested in everything that happens behind, on your own trading outside of your platform, have you tried to do, I don't know, some sort of arbitrage, latency arbitrage, some sort of things, between the lines
That's
of
that's how I actually came to start eToro. Part of that is both my first degree seminar and my second degree were all around like quantitative models to trade the markets. And I actually built something based on what would now be called actually an agent-based system. that tries to replicate the markets. It's a model called minority games. And I wrote the software, and I tried to sort of generate these algorithms to trade. And I came to a conclusion that with the current market costs and structure, it's extremely hard to make money unless you have very significant scale. So here now in eToro, I'm back to doing these things, but at a very large scale.
Yeah, that's the thing. From my observation, a lot of people who, try at different levels, trading, retail trading, etc. Okay, although they could make some kind of money, obviously it's much more profitable when you're in some aspect, let's say, not exactly behind the scenes, because essentially, you're not the market, or you're not exactly the market maker, but you're a participant on a little bit higher level, so you have a lot of what's happening basically in the markets.
But that's a big part of what eToro wants to bridge and democratize. Not only the world of accessing the markets, but to the different people that you can learn from, right? So when I was in high school, I envisioned myself one day maybe working in a place like Goldman Sachs and being able to talk to 1,000 different traders, or pick up the phone to Hong Kong or Japan to understand what's going on. Today, everything is through the internet. We're developing more and more tools always for our customers to be able to become better traders and successful investors. And now sort of going back to what your father told you, I think that the first mission of eToro about opening the markets for everyone is really a market education mission, because still today, if you look at the US, almost 60% of households have exposure to the markets, versus Europe, where it's less than 10%. And I think that's the first thing people need to understand, that you can actually make money in capital markets. So if you simply invest long-term, even in things that are as simple as S&P ETF, if your horizon is a long-term horizon into the stock markets, then while it is risky on the short term, because markets can be volatile, as we've seen yesterday with Nvidia stock, on the long term, investing in the markets always beats having money in the bank, which obviously loses its value over time as fiat money, and beats also fixed income markets, which means if you're smart enough to make sure that your money works for you, at least to generate interest rates, it's still over time better to invest in capital markets. And that's a big part of what we're helping our customers learn and educate themselves about.
You're, I would say, perhaps one of the pioneers when it comes to social trading and copy trading. Always, even in Google, even nowadays, just obviously you're gonna come up because you have good branding, good marketing. But why is the focus not so much, let's say, in currency? Because people, here in Dubai, the Middle East, the Indian market, a lot of other markets, one of the first associations with trading is usually currency, forex, perhaps gold. Obviously, you have stocks, US, etc. But the main association is usually currency. In eToro, that's not your main focus. This is one of your products. And I think to a big extent, this is as part of your vision, your own interests, I assume, in stocks, and later on through the years in crypto as well. Tell us more about it.
So again, generally, I think that if you think long-term value creation, wealth compounding, right? And it's always amazes me, like when I show to people what happens to $200 a month. If you invest $200 a month and generate 10% or 15% a year, you'll be able to generate $1 million in somewhere between 20 to 30 years, right? And $200 a month doesn't sound like a lot of money to invest in the markets. So if you learn to invest in markets where you can generate returns, and you can consistently generate them over time, I think those are the markets that requires sort of everybody to learn about and understand. And capital markets, US markets specifically, but the stock markets are, in my view, the most interesting market in that aspect. Crypto markets, I would say, is interesting because I'm a very big believer in blockchain technology. I'm a very big believer in Bitcoin as a generational asset class. It has higher risk because you don't know what's the intrinsic value of crypto assets. It's not like if you look at stocks, you know what, even if the entire world will move now to work with Bitcoin, if you want to buy Coca-Cola to drink or McDonald's sweet or pay for your Netflix subscription, you're still paying those companies which generate then profit. The only difference is they'll generate that profit in Bitcoin instead of dollars. So when you think of companies, they generate real value that consumers or if it's B2B companies want to consume, that creates value, that creates profits. Those profits you can sort of from that evaluate how much a company is worth, and therefore whether you want to invest in their stock. Crypto assets, it's a bit more complicated. It's much more like if I look at value investing, then I think of growth investing, right? So you invest in Tesla, not because of how much cars they sell today, but because how much cars they're going to sell in 3 or 5 years, and because you think they're going to sell a lot of robots as well. And there are going to be more robots than cars. But they haven't sold even one robot to date, right? So it's not value investing. It's like thinking of the future and evaluate like growth investing, which didn't really happen. If you think of crypto, it's like growth investing in an adoption of an ecosystem, of an idea, of a cryptocurrency. Bitcoin, in my view, is an equivalent of digital gold, and I think it actually represents something as good and better than gold for the digital age. But of course, there are some risks to it, whether it's quantum computing or regulation or others, today less and less over time. If you think of smart contracts, blockchains, whether it's like Solana or Ethereum or XRP, I think the infrastructure of the entire financial services industry and therefore the global economy is about to transition into a blockchain-based economy, into a digital asset-based economy. And I think that opportunity is a huge opportunity that didn't exist for me with the internet, right? So when I started investing, I saw the internet, but I couldn't buy parts of the internet. I could invest in companies that are related to the internet. Some of them, by the way, disappeared in the dot-com bubble burst. But I think that's the opportunity. It's sort of growth investing meets sort of an ecosystem asset that potentially grows over time. And again, we can probably talk for hours with me about how do you value crypto assets. So I think it's a very directional investment generally. Again, with the blockchains in my mind, less meme coins for me, but more blockchains or things like Deepin or things that have real usage in the real world. And then when you think of commodities or currencies, they are mostly a non-directional investment, right? So you buy oil, maybe with leverage, it's usually short duration, it's based on a future contract which expires once a month, and although we provide the ability to roll it over, I think generally currencies and commodities, unless you're in the hands of a professional, it's very hard to invest in them. What people do is trade them, right? So trading, I always like to say, investing, anyone should learn about investing, and investing can be easy because you just need to learn about the markets and invest in sort of the markets, right? You allocate funds, whether it's to fixed income, ETFs, whether it's to the S&P ETF, right? There are simple methods of compounding wealth in the markets. It's like getting a university degree, right? I think, like, again, it's not necessarily the degree of the university, but I think everybody should know math, everybody should know English, everybody should know how to read, in my view, financial reports, and I think people should learn how to invest in the markets. Trading is like being an NBA player, right? So you can go to a university. If most people would ask me, should I go to a university? I'd ask them, either study on your own what you'd study at a university or go to study in a university. But if you'd ask me, should I go to play in the NBA team, right, or the basketball, I tell you, go and try, but remember, it's very hard to succeed, right? So unless you're 2.1 meters and are very skilled with your basketball, I wouldn't recommend to you to spend 8 hours a day just throwing balls at a hoop, right? So trading is an expertise that I'm, by the way, part trader, but I'm an 80% investor, 20% trader, right? So I like to trade from time to time. From time to time, I find interesting trades, but I wouldn't call myself like a trader or an active trader. Although, again, some people would, because they'd look at my portfolio and say, hey, you just bought Trump coin and you just bought Nvidia and you just sold Apple. But again, making money in trading in the markets, if you think of things like crypto and stocks that over time go up, is one thing. Making money in markets that are completely directional, like euro dollar or oil, is a much harder game, although people who are doing it can successfully scale it as well. So that's why when you think of eToro, right, and we talk to the mass market over ads or our language, we believe most people, or all people should be able to invest in capital markets, in the stock markets. Crypto markets a bit more riskier, but I think it's a generational asset class, and most young people should invest in Bitcoin and look at crypto markets as well. If you're asking me how many people should actively trade or use complex instruments to trade, people who are passionate about it, who are interested, and understand the risks and are willing to take them to become more professional.
Talking about maths, myself, I'm not very good with maths, but as long as you put the currency sign or dollar or anything, my brain becomes like very sharp, like straight away. You mentioned the differences between trading and investing. Let's say for eToro at the moment, the customer base, I know you have around almost 40 million registered users. I don't know what percentage of them is active, but how would you define between traders and investors on your platform?
So again, it's very hard to differentiate, as I mentioned about myself. I think everybody by definition are investors, right? So you made one trade, you're now an investor in the markets. And some people are more diversified investors. If you invest in both crypto and stocks, maybe copy people on the eToro platform or invest in our smart portfolios. And then the more active you are, right? So what is trade? Trade is actually just the action of investing, right? So the more you do the action of investing, the more you trade, you become more of a trader than an investor. So we have some internal logic as we look at our customer base and ask like who are more long-term holders, who are more active, and we sort of segment the clients from that point of view. But I would generally say it's not either or. It's everyone is an investor, and some of the investors are simply more active, and therefore you could call them traders.
I was doing in a month 500 lots in currency. I don't know if this is too much or how do you see it?
It's quite a lot. I would call that a trader, definitely.
Yeah, it's a good number. Yes, but overall, of course, your perspective, it makes total sense, when you put all the asset classes, starting from stocks, crypto, which is something, that has some kind of value creation in the economy, some kind of intrinsic value. And then on the other side, you see currency and commodities, which is something that on a daily on a daily basis, people cannot perhaps relate that much, but when you see a company, you say, okay, I want to have a startup. One day I want to go IPO. I want to be listed. I want to be a participant of the global economy. Obviously, they feel much more related and much more directional. When it comes to copy trading, we'll go back to this interesting subject. My experience, for example, except eToro, has been with some crypto exchanges, and there, because it's something relatively new, to copy trade other people, you have certain issues. So first of all, the traders, they're a bit short term, on other platforms. Someone can perform well in 1 or 2 months, then it blows up, his bitcoins or whatever, he's trading. That's one thing. The second thing is the other platforms themselves, they don't have the necessary experience to protect the investors, the people who would follow these traders. How is the situation with you? I've noticed you've had a lot of traders who have been long-term having good performances, have been quite transparent, have been... tell us more about it.
So first of all, we're by far sort of the largest and longest standing company in the business of social trading. So we have a lot of expertise and data about it because we've seen sort of in the past, we moved from here's everybody's performance, just pick anybody you want, where what we saw is actually people just picked the people who made the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time, and that was probably the worst possible decision they could make. So there's actually inverse correlation between people who are making a lot of money in a short period of time to those who consistently can generate returns. Now, out of roughly 3.5 million brokerage accounts, we have roughly 3,300 popular investors, right? So over time, what we did is we actually built a team that curates the platform and actually creates these stages where if you want to get copied, you need to enroll into a program where you actually go through risk management and capital markets education at a higher level to the top one, which basically we transform them into investment professionals. So our top tier of popular investors actually do a certification. It's a CISI wealth management certification, which means they're investment professionals. They've been certified and trained as investment professionals. So we looked at the program and said, okay, if people are copying individuals on our platform, we want to make sure that they become professionals over time. The more money copying them, the more we require them. So one is the certification process and educating yourselves about risk management. The second part is actually applying risk management. So on eToro, you actually can't copy somebody with high risk scores. So every person you will look at eToro, you'll see their track record, but also the risk score. The risk score is how volatile is their portfolio. And this probably was maybe 6-7 years ago where we came to a conclusion and we actually want to block the ability to copy people who have too high of a risk score. And we actually just want our popular investors to be those who know how to manage risk. And as you grow as a popular investor in eToro, we actually require you to lower your risk score, right? So you have to learn how to manage the risk of the portfolio. And again, a big part of my view of capital markets is that one, you need to believe, you need to educate yourselves about capital markets and then understand the risk management of how much you're willing to risk for trading or for investing, and then how do you manage that risk? And to manage that risk, what you need to learn really is about first diversification, right? So people who are more diversified, by definition, have lesser risk. And then you can also learn sort of more complex tools of how you hedge a portfolio from a risk management point of view in order to, again, make your portfolio less volatile, therefore more applicable for higher amounts of money.
Okay, so that's good. There is a lot of levels of checking the leaders that are doing the trades. It's not like some 14-year-old kid sitting in Vietnam and gambling some crypto, which happens in some crypto exchanges. Okay, and some last questions. Let's say about the UAE. What is your experience here? I've been in some of your talks and conferences recently. Why did you choose, by the way, Abu Dhabi and not Dubai? What was the decision there?
We've had a great experience with ADGM, the regulator in Abu Dhabi. It was one of my first visits when we sort of looked at where the markets are. Of course, we love Dubai.
He's a Greek guy, the Emmanuel. He's a fellow Greek,
Yeah.
the regulator authority. Okay.
We just saw a great opportunity first in expanding to the UAE. I think we're one of the most prominent and known brands now in the world of both trading and investing in the UAE. Very excited about the growth we're seeing there. Also, the growth of our office. We just received our license in the end of 2023 and now have a significant sort of franchise there operating from Abu Dhabi. Very excited every time to see the Abu Dhabi Finance Week. So we sponsored both 23 and 2024. It's amazing to see how the largest hedge funds in the world and the largest asset managers in the world are coming to meet in Abu Dhabi in the UAE. So we're definitely excited about the opportunity to continue and grow, to continue and innovate within the Abu Dhabi markets. We recently launched Dubai stocks on the platform. So for me, it was like a first time I actually bought some Dubai stocks on the eToro platform. We'll be launching very shortly also Abu Dhabi stocks on the platform and are excited to bring in not only people from the UAE to trade local stocks, but also to bring people from across the globe to look at the beautiful markets of the UAE.
Okay, that's amazing. I mean, that's more or less with the time. This depends on you, but we could go forever, asking. I'm very curious always about that kind of trading related things. Let me know if you would like anything else to add.
I think we're good. Very glad to see it, and I'll let you know next time I'm in Dubai, we'll meet in person.
Yeah, super. Thank you,
Perfect.
Yoni Assia. I will join the eToro club. I see you have
Yeah.
loaded.